How frequently do you utilize your selfie camera? In the event that the response lies somewhere close to never, and not frequently, then the ZTE Axon 40 Ultra may very well be the ideal telephone for you. In any case, well, the Axon 40 Ultra is ZTE's most recent leader to conceal its selfie camera under the actual screen. This is ZTE's third era of the tech, and absolutely its ideal yet, and miles past opponents including Samsung. However, on the grounds that it's awesome around doesn't mean it's sufficient, and keeping in mind that ZTE has figured out how to make its camera basically imperceptible, it hasn't tackled the trickier physical science problem of ensuring the actual camera is really good for anything. Like I said, however, on the off chance that you don't utilize it much at any rate, then, at that point, does that truly matter? Design and build. Enormous yet surprisingly slender, curved screen and rounded body. No IP rating. The Axon 40 Ultra is a major telephone. We should move that right. Because of a 6.8-inch display, this thing has some serious heave. However, ZTE has given its all to keep it smooth, and it just arrives in a hair over 200 grams in weight. At 8.4mm, it's additionally genuinely thin, and really feels slimmer than that because of curved edges to both the display and the body of the actual telephone. That actually intends that notwithstanding its sheer size, the 40 Ultra is generally sufficiently agreeable to hold, just accessible in dark for its worldwide delivery. However, gold and silver models sent off in China, the telephone is done in pearly glass. It looks like it. However, the completion ZTE has picked is additionally amazingly unique, finger impression safe, and grippy enough to stop the telephone sliding off surfaces. The glass will anyway leave it somewhat powerless against drops and scratches, particularly since there's no indication of Gorilla Glass or other protective materials. There's likewise no IP rating of any sort, so residue and water harm could be a problem as well. Basically, this telephone will be somewhat powerless, so you'll probably need to utilize a case. Display and sound. Practically imperceptible under display camera. Fantastic display quality. Loads of inadvertent addresses the curved edges. No doubt there's a selfie camera under this screen. Yet I'd be intrigued if you would track down it. In more than 7 days of utilizing the Axon 40 Ultra, I've just detected the camera through the display once. And, surprisingly, then I needed to utilize high splendor and a white foundation to simply make out the layout. The remainder of the display dazzles as well. I've proactively referenced that it's huge at 6.8-inch, but at the same time it's a 120Hz AMOLED with high pinnacle brilliance of 1500 nits, every single top spec. This doesn't utilize the dynamic LTPO revive rate scaling tech of some adversary leads, so will not get a similar power-saving advantages as those. What's more, it's covered at a full HD plus goal, which I seldom see as an issue, yet appears to be worth focusing on given that most of telephones this size offer WQHD plus screens. The display's greatest shortcoming is the arch. Before you start, I like curved telephone screens. In any case, this cascade bend is excessively outrageous for my preferences, and all the more significantly ZTE's Palm Discovery isn't capable. That implies that over and over again it will recognize contacts along the edge of the screen, while I'm basically hanging on, inadvertently enacting controls, or, more regrettable, enrolling as a back swipe. Specs and execution. Lead Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 chip, up to 12GB SLAM and 256GB stockpiling. 5G network. It might be said there's not much to say regarding execution here. It's magnificent, and easily on a standard with other top-of-the-line handsets. The 40 Ultra is controlled by the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1, the most well-known lead telephone chip this year. It's little amazement then that the telephone performs well in benchmarks, falling generally in accordance with the current year's other premium telephones. It sits in front of numerous in the illustrations focused GFX bench tests, yet not that the telephones we've picked to think about against generally have really overbearing, higher goal screens. It's a comparable story in genuine use, with no slack or stammer in my time utilizing the telephone. This will hold up to performing multiple tasks and productivity similarly as well as it will gaming, and has sufficient specs that it ought to run as expected long into the future. My audit unit is furnished with 8GB of SLAM and 128GB of stockpile, which is the essential spec for the telephone's worldwide delivery, with a choice to move up to 12GB Smash and 256GB stockpiling. In China, the telephone might be moved up to 16GB Smash and an incredible 1TB stockpiling. However, tragically, that model isn't sending off around the world. Past the center specs, the telephone actually dazzles. 5G network is normally included, along with NFC, Bluetooth 5.2, and the most recent Wi-Fi 6E norm. Battery and charging. Over a day's battery. Genuinely quick 65W charging. No remote charging. I have no genuine protests about the telephone's power. yet it's similarly not where it succeeds. The 5000 mAh battery is enthusiastic about paper, however between the large, brilliant screen and the very good quality chip it actually depletes quick. This is a telephone that will cheerfully last an entire day's use, and a smidgen more, however, will not actually come to 2 except if you're an especially light client. Taking everything into account, that is superior to the typical lead. Battery is the main spec that will in general deteriorate when you spend more cash, so while that lifespan isn't uncommon, it's actually no faltering all things considered. Tease a comparative story for charging. 65W wired charging is genuinely quick, enough to re-establish 81% of battery in 30 minutes. It's nippier than any telephone sold by Apple, Google, or Samsung, however well behind rival gadgets from Oppo and Xiaomi. Once more, great yet not extraordinary. At last, there's no remote charging choice by any stretch of the imagination. At this value, that is a slight dissatisfaction, as most opponents would pack it, particularly for a telephone pitching itself as an ultra choice. Camera and video. Triple 64MP back camera. Great outcomes, yet all the same somewhat overprocessed. Selfie shots are now and again fine, yet entirely frequently delicate and ineffectively uncovered. The selfie camera is seldom the most intriguing piece of a telephone's photography arrangement, yet we are right here. Software and updates. Runs Android 12 with MyOS. No firm Android update promise. As you'd expect, the Axon 40 Ultra boats with the most recent Android 12 operating framework, running ZTE's basically named MyOS skin on top. As Android skins go, MyOS is unobjectionable, yet in addition average. It doesn't deliver loaded with bloatware or dial your telephone back with forceful battery improvements. However, there are a couple of more modest disturbances and minimal new that it offers of real value.